Good evening, good evening. Welcome to another edition of G's One of One on this Sunday. Appreciate y'all joining me on this Sunday evening. Um, we probably about 40 minutes behind, but nonetheless, we here. So I tell the community I like to keep showing up, and that's what I do. So if you're new here, we usually wait till about the 5 minute mark because I like to allow everybody to get the notifications that we're actually live. So during this time, feel free to throw any questions in the chat. We're not going to do anything super formal tonight. Just want to keep showing up and make sure I'm available for the community. So that's what we're doing. And, we'll talk a little bit about the title and a little bit about my week. And I'd like to hear about y'all week. And ultimately, we'll talk things, all things GOP and, obesity. So, because that's what we cover right here on every Sunday night, right around this time. So, let's just give it a few minutes to allow some people to get those notifications, and once they do, we will, get started. So, feel free to use those cues and drop the questions in the chat. Because again, like I said, this won't be nothing real formal tonight. It just wanted to keep showing up and make sure that we're available to the community. I kind of like Sunday nights, and then around this time, I feel like, I'm out the way. You know what I mean? Everybody got their lives and all of their goings on done earlier today. So now it's all about the night owls and the people that, know that G's One of One is live on Sunday nights. So I appreciate you all for continuously coming and supporting the channel. We have grown. Hey, Grant, how you doing, man? We have grown. I can remember, like I said, when we was at 48 people, and I was trying to get to 50 just to go live. So, and then my son got two of his friends to subscribe, and cause I was telling my son, I was telling my wife and my son, and my son was like, how many you need? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna get my buddies to, and then a couple of them subscribed, and voila, I had 50, and I could go live. And around back then, I think I said, well, I'm not gonna waste the opportunity. I'm gonna make sure I go ahead and go live. You know what I mean? So people were able to, get that good information. So, that's kind of how we spawned this thing. So that's how this, the lives were born because, like I said, I never imagined myself actually getting on the computer on the camera and talking about much of anything, let alone my own personal weight loss, because it's always been such a stigma and kind of like embarrassing to talk about obesity. So I'm just happy to be able to be upfront and be willing to talk about it now. So all right, guys, so we're gonna give it about a little more than a minute, and then after that we'll jump right into the topic that I mentioned. But again, nothing really formal. So if you guys want to actually throw the cues up and have questions and anything that you guys want to talk about, feel free to let me know. I'll probably do a poll tomorrow just to see what it is that people would like me to talk about, at this point on the channel, or what they would like to see. Because oftentimes I would tell people certain things, and then they would say, "Well, my audience don't really care about that." You know what I mean? So maybe I need to ask, what does my audience want to hear, instead of being an educator. Because for me, a lot of times that's what I'm doing. I'm consistently educating and talking to people about what I feel is the need. But maybe I should just ask others what they want to hear about. So hey, Z, how you doing? Appreciate you for stopping in. And if you are in the chat, watching the stream, please go ahead and smash that like, because we got 5 so far and there are only 3 likes. So let's go ahead and smash that button, so that way the algorithm knows that these are the videos you'd like to see. If you haven't hit that bell, make sure you hit that bell and subscribe to G's One of One. Nothing, and I haven't done this in a while, but I probably should be. Nothing here is medical advice. This is just for entertainment purposes. So if you have questions about your very own health, let's just make sure that you actually speak to your provider. Okay, so there's that. Crazy enough, it feels like when I come downstairs, that's when I kind of start getting congested, because I can hear it, and I'm hoping that it don't get too annoying, because That's kind of what's been happening lately. I don't know if it does say that I had a cold for a little bit, and I feel like this is the remnants of that, but then again, it does say Zepbound has the ability to cause a little bit of this. Excuse me. See that? I didn't want to be sneezing on camera. But I'm back. But yeah, so it does say Zepbound has the ability to cause some of that kind of clear mucus, and that was kind of like, especially at the higher doses, that I'm on 15 milligram, and it actually this up a little bit. Yeah. It actually is something that I've been seeing a little bit. I don't know if it's, like I said, related to my cold or what, but that's what I've been seeing lately, is that kind of clear mucus, which caused all that coughing that I had because I had that post nasal drip. So I've been taking Allegra daily now. So we'll see. All right, so I named my title uh, uh, the the well, I asked the question: has your GLP, whichever one you want, 1, 2, or if you're using the gray market, probably 3. That means that would be semaglutide, tirzepatide, or either Reta. Um, has it caused a heightened awareness or even guilt of potentially overeating while snacking? Or potentially overeating or snacking. And what I mean by that is, now we have this awareness of, we're so used to like being very strict with what it is that we do, that oftentimes when we do go to eat something that we don't normally eat, we have a sense of guilt. You know what I mean? And I say potentially overeating because oftentimes we're not even overeating because we eat so little at times that we just automatically assume or feel like we're overeating when we're not. You know what I mean? Like, so I just wondered if anybody else like had that awareness, because I had that heightened sense. My wife even said the same thing. She was like, even when I get like to right before shot day, she's like, where you can eat like a good deal more, you have this impending like guilt, like, oh my God, why am I eating like this? I don't eat. And when in fact you're not really overeating, you're actually probably eating, still eating appropriately, but you're eating more than you're able to on other days. You know what I mean? So, yeah, right, Z, yeah. So that's a thing. You know what I mean? That really is a thing. You know what I mean? Because she said it herself. She was like, I really, have the ability to stop myself now, because she's like, I literally, it's almost like out of body. Like I come out my body and look at my body and be like, hey, what you doing? Like you're eating more than you normally eat. You know what I mean? So it's crazy, man. Because I noticed we take our shot on Fridays, because I give her shot, and then I take mine and then I go give her shot every Friday morning. So the thing is, she was saying how on Wednesdays, and Thursdays, she actually kind of really like where she can eat a little more, like where most of us can when we like that right day before shot day, right at the day before shot day. She said, I just noticed like I'm able to control it. Like she'd be like, you know what? Why am I about to eat this? Because I know I'm not supposed to be eating this. And she's like, I can just stop myself. Like it's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's something that's untapped, right? Because we do talk about the quieting of the food noise, but we probably don't talk enough about the control that we have, over our senses when it comes to actually eating, because again, we spend a lot less time actually eating now. You know what I mean? So it's just a crazy phenomenon. I think that's probably under discussed. You know what I mean, about the control that we actually have now. So that's interesting. And I thought about, I said, what title am I gonna get this thing tonight? Because I feel like that's really a thing. So yeah. So like I said, tonight's not gonna be super formal. So feel free to put those cues up and ask whatever questions you like. Pretty much maintained this week. I think I actually went up a pound. Like I told everybody, I'm 214. I was 214. I was 215 today when I got on the scale. Like I told most, I'm not really trying to lose a lot more weight. I'm actually fine with getting down to about 210, because I'm going to be having a laser lipo procedure in February. So with that, the physician or the surgeon and the office manager there were talking to me and my wife, and they were saying you don't want to get, lose more than like maybe 10 or 15 pounds. And I was like 225 because that was the time, or 224, when I actually let myself eat a little bit. When I explained, like I explained to everybody, I had that little fatigue feeling and a lack of vitamin B, lack of iron, and I wanted to go ahead and gain a little bit of weight and feel better. So that was during that whole time, when we had that right, I want to say right after my trip. Literally, it was like the next day when we came back from Mexico. Um, and they said at that time, don't lose more than 10 or 15 pounds, maybe. And I'm already 10 pounds down from that. So I'm probably like 5 more and I'll be done. I'm not going to, that will put me at 210. So I don't want to go any lower than that because basically you're probably going to lose about 10, maybe 15 pounds at the most after that procedure. You know what I mean? So anywhere from like 7 to like 12 pounds, they say. But we all know that those are averages. So you can lose anywhere from, maybe 6 or 7 all the way up to maybe like, 15. So, and I don't want to be any lower than 200 pounds. So if I go to 195, who's crying? I'm not crying, but that's as low as I want to weigh. So I'm not really forcing any weight loss at this point, because I'm just letting my body naturally do what it will do. You know what I mean? Because most know, I also said that I'm now lifting 4 days a week. I used to do 2, and now I moved it to 4. So I've doubled my actual output with weightlifting. And then I'm lifting heavier. That's another thing. What I didn't do for this week right here was I didn't walk. So I think that probably is that pound or pound and a half or whatever it is that I picked up today, this week from last week. And that's because I didn't do any of my walking. I did get quite a few steps in, working and things like that. But as far as my extracurricular walking, I didn't do this week. But that was because I had I had a very sore foot. Not sure exactly how, but it was pretty sore. So I said I'm gonna just it could be from lifting heavy weights too. Don't think about it, because I do have a surgically repaired toe. So that could be a thing. So I just gave it a break, and actually it feels pretty good. So I know I needed that break. You know what I mean? So this week though, I'm actually gonna go back really hot and heavy. I'm gonna go hard. I'm gonna do my 4 days, because I did 3 days of weightlifting and not 4 this week, because again, this week I took it a bit easy because the foot soreness, and then my back was a little sore. So I said, let me just, allow this muscle that I built up to actually do some burning for me, because I did lift three solid days. So this week though, like I said, I'm back at it. I'm going to be doing 4 days of lifting, and I'm going to go ahead and then do my walking. Let me put my glasses on. Okay, that's cool, Grant. Grant says he don't feel guilty because he stayed within his calorie range. So I think, Grant, what I'm talking about is not necessarily a calorie conversation. It's just a thing of, and like I said, we're not even, and it's like I said, when we do what I'm talking about, we're not even overeating. It's just a feeling you have because you've set your body to the point where, so some of that is what I mean too, though, because I'm saying that we don't spend the time that we spent eating prior now. Eating isn't a recreation like it used to be. So when you actually go and eat out of the norm, you know what I mean, or more on that like day or two where you can eat the most for the week, that's what I mean. Where you still have like that little bit of guilt because that's just not what you do anymore. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's not a thing of like, okay, worrying about going over your calories, because that's like most of us could probably, because I usually have my heavy day on Sundays. Sundays, I don't take any of the like supplements or anything at all, and I eat regular, as regular as possible. Like I'll eat big breakfast, like pancakes, things that I don't eat regularly. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Grant. Like things that I don't eat regularly on Sundays, we kind of let free. Like that's our free day, like to just do whatever we like and not think about it. So that's kind of what I mean, but. Which is actually only a couple days after shot day, so it's usually cool because we can't eat a whole lot anyway because we only 2 days past. It's probably the highest amount of suppression on Sunday anyway because we take our shot on Friday, and that's also why we strategically moved our shots to Friday, because we knew on the weekends we're very busy. We do a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? During the week we're super structured because it's work, it's school, it's just like working out. All that stuff happens during the week. I'm more apt to feel guilty eating outside normal mealtime these days. Yeah. So then you get what I'm saying, then, Grant. You get what I'm saying. It's like it's not like going crazy. It's just we're so used to like just not spending the time we did before eating, because we used to spend a lot of time eating before. Now we don't. It's like a thing. Like, you know what I mean? So, yep. But yeah. So the thing is, like we hey, Traveling T, what we do is we take our shot on Friday though, because it's kind of like a protective measure for us, because we realize that on the weekends is when we have that's the most free time, and we're always doing things. So hey, Darren, so that's really like the time when we actually are out and doing stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, you that's where all the temptation. And then Sunday is kind of like our chill day. You know what I mean? So with Sunday being that chill day, that's kind of where, you know what I mean, we also like eat. So when we take our shot on Friday, we're protected, because throughout the weekend we can't eat a lot anyway. Even when we think we eat a lot, we ain't, because we can't. But on that Wednesday, Thursday, that's where that's kind of more like what it is that I was talking about. That Wednesday, Thursday, because that is the closest to shot day, and that's where you can eat the heaviest. You know what I mean? So you literally are just like, feeling like, you're just aware. Guilt is like a possibility. You know what I mean? It's more about awareness. You just have a heightened sense around what you're eating, because those days you're eating a bit more than you eat any other days. You know what I mean? So it's just like, you actually are in control. So that heightened awareness actually places you in a state of like complete control. Because that's the other side of, like I said, we talk a lot about food, the quieting of food noise, but we actually probably don't talk enough about how much control we also gain with that awareness, because of our daily habits of just not consuming that much food anymore. You know what I mean? That's not our state of being. It's not the sit down and eat, constantly. You know what I mean? Like, it's very targeted. We don't spend a lot of time doing it. So when you are doing it, you know what I mean? So that's the one thing where I could see how people possibly, could actually attempt to try to not, even if they taper down the medication to off, where they could attempt to try not to go back, or increase weight. Now, I do believe you still would increase weight because of the extracurricular factors, right? And what I mean by that is the work that it does on the mitochondria disappears, right? The work that it does on the mitochondria disappears because you no longer had a medication, And I mean, and when I'm saying this, because I hear a lot of people say, well, I came off for 5 weeks. I came off for, a month or 7 weeks or 2 months. I'd like to see you after a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my thing. People are, well, I came off for 2. I came off for 2 months. I ain't gained but 2-3 pounds. So I know I could do it. That is not a good measure, ladies and gentlemen. That is not a good measure. And I hear it all the time. I'm telling you, you can come off, because I was off I've been off for 3 months, and I ain't gained but 7-8 pounds. I like to see you in a year or two, right? I really think that at that time, it could be problematic. You know what I mean? Because that's where I feel like you actually give it time, because everything on this journey is about patience. You know what I mean? And oftentimes we don't actually give it the patience that's deserved. Just like I said, I felt like for a good maybe a month, I was fluctuating between like that 218 and 220, 218 and 220. And then when I seen 214, I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? And, but it really was like, I just didn't let myself have that patience, you know what I mean? And that's all it is. Because my wife, it was the same thing, for her. She fluctuating between that 145, 148, 145, 148. Then she got on the scale, 148, 140. Then boom, 142. She's like, whoa, you know what I mean? So that's the same thing. It's just about the patience that you give your body, right? Because our inside is actually going through just as big a makeover as our outside, right? I mean, if you just look at your visceral fat, number one, you know what I mean? And I think that it has did a number on a lot of other things too. And I think even when it comes to your actual like nasal cavity, right? Your hearing, all of those things, because we have fat pads interior, right? That actually shrink. And when you no longer have that, a lot of times you can hear echoes, you can hear things you didn't. And even like I said, the nasal issues I've been having lately, I think it has a lot to do with it, because think about the size of my face, right? if you look at my face today versus my first video that I did in that car, you know, when I was in my car and I said, hey, there's no better time than right now to record your first video. That's what I said in that car, and that was in March, you know, of 2025. You know what I mean? And here we are, all the way, you know, however many some odd, you know, I'm on week 85, I think, right now. But I'm, you know, all of the, and that probably was like week, what was that? That was probably, I want to say that was week 9. That was like week 9, right? So we talking about like 75 weeks ago. You know, at that time, you know, what my face was. My face was like this big, you know, at that time. It was this big. Big swole up, you know, so all the fat pad and all that stuff that was in there, I ain't had like this, you know, this sharp chin line, chin line and all that. You know, it was just fat. So that, and then you got to think about interior. There was things in there, that fat pad that's now, you know, dissipated. So I can see why I can have some of the nasal things, and like, you know, we have these things going on because it contributes to that, you know, with the hearing. Because even like when you blow your nose, like now when I blow my nose, I hear I want to say like, it's much louder, like in my, so it affects everything. So these are signs of what I'm saying, that is your body is actually doing work from the inside out. You know what I mean? So we have to be cognizant of that, and then just know that all of these things take patience. And again, like I said in my last video, I feel like the longer you take the shot, you know, and I always give Christopher over the downsides that credit, because that's when I had my interview with him, the first thing he had said, he was like, you know, I feel like, in his personal opinion, you know, just take the shot. Why? Because the longer you can take it consistently, you know, it does wonders. You know what I mean? And it really does. You know, I'm an absolute believer because I have the evidence, right? Because I'm a part of that evidence. You know, the longer I took that shot, I've taken the shot, it has done more and more and more, you know, for me. So that's kind of where we at. So like I said, guys, feel free. I mean, we're not formal tonight. Just feel free to drop the cues in the chat and ask any questions you like, so we can answer them. And Darren, I see you got a live coming up with Charles on Tuesday, so should be interesting. So make sure y'all guys look out for Darren and Round Mound and Zepbound on Tuesday at 9 o'clock, I believe. So look out for that. They're going over, you know, I guess I'm not sure if Charles was there, but I think Darren went to the conference and he wants to talk about it. I think it was was it obesity? Which conference was it? It was OAC, right, Darren? Yes, Tuesday at 9. What was the name of the conference? I think it's OAC. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the acronym. I think it's OAC, obesity something. I'm not sure. I guess there's more than one way to skin a cat. I've been asking Darren to go do more videos, so I guess RMZ said, well, I'm gonna take it the next step and get him on my channel. If you ain't gonna go on your own, I'm gonna get you on mine. So he getting Darren to come on out and talk about that conference. Obesity Action Coalition. Okay, your weight matter. I knew it was OA. I knew it had to be something with obesity, but I wasn't sure of exactly what the acronym, you know, was for. So, so Darren's gonna go live and they're gonna talk about that obesity actions coalition. So that should be interesting. So let's look out for that, so Darren can educate us on what he learned. So let's dive in just a little bit, since there's no questions in the chat, to keep things moving, because I won't be before you too long. You know, it got me sounding like a pastor, like I'm about to do a sermon, right? Because, you know, that's usually the cue. Well, I won't be before you too long, you know, church. So just, you know, make sure that you, you know, nod, agree, and say amen, and we can get on out of here. So I guess that's kind of like, you know, where we at with it. You know what I mean? But GLP-1 receptor agonist medications are surging in popularity. With U.S. adult, see, 60 minutes later. With U.S. adult usage jumping significantly, while expanding into oral pill platform, new Medicare coverage pathways, and broader medical trials targeting heart and inflammatory diseases. The rising popularity. Recent data shows roughly 11% of U.S. adults now use GLP-1 medications for weight loss, correlating with a noticeable national dip in recorded obesity rates. So think about that. Recent data shows roughly 11% of U.S. adults now use GLP-1 medications for weight loss, correlating with a noticeable national dip in recorded obesity rates. That is absolutely amazing, and that's what you hope for. Because when we first started this, well, not when we first started, but just recently, before that spurt of growth, we were seeing obesity rates at an all-time high, and overweight even higher than that. You know what I mean? I think obesity was don't quote me on it, so above 50%, and overweight was like 75%. Of the U.S. population. So that's and overweight is a much larger conversation, because there can be some argument there due to muscle mass and all kind of things. So I mean, we won't go there, but obesity is definitely a problem, because that shouldn't be, right. We shouldn't be obese. Overweight, that's debatable, because again, there's a lot of nuance with that. And then when you're overweight, you shouldn't be like at the border of obesity. You probably should be a bit under that. Which is why, like I said, for me, I'd like to get around that 27, right? 27, because that is, overweight, but not like, severely overweight, like 29. Like today, I'm probably at 29 because I'm 214. So I'm probably right at 29. But for me to get to 27, I probably got to be like right around 199 or 200 pounds. So that's kind of where I'm headed. You know what I mean? So insurance pressures. High demand is straining corporate and private health plans, leading some employers to scale back or drop dedicated weight loss drug coverage. Medicare shifts. Medicare and federal programs have begun expanding access options for eligible seniors, though high discontinuation rates persist among older demographics. And that could possibly be due to some of the side effects and them not being coached properly. Oral formulation. The rollout of daily oral GLP-1 pills has altered the market, shifting patients away from strict weekly injections. Let's talk about the broader health benefits. Clinical research continues to highlight benefits beyond weight and diabetes, pointing to major reductions in heart attack, stroke, chronic inflammation, and markers, right? Chronic inflammation markers. So that's the thing I'll be saying, because if insurance companies would have less to worry about if they actually understood. I know that they say 70% of Americans are living with overweight, and 31%. About 31%, and obesity about 43%. Yes, there it is, Darren. So Darren pulled the statistics. So I do like to talk about the other benefits. The benefits beyond weight and diabetes, because there are reductions, like they said, in heart attack, strokes, and chronic inflammation. So, and that actually helps other areas, right? Because if we actually can limit, the level of, amount of strokes and heart attacks and diabetes, that helps the entire healthcare system, right? So if the company actually was smart, they would see that it actually is better to allow people to get on GLP-1 and drop the weight, and then that way they're able to actually see the benefit, right? You know what I mean? The long-term benefit, so it saves the money overall. But because the short-term cost is a little bit higher, they don't see it. Well, they're starting to, but at least they haven't in the past. Next-gen pipeline. Pharmaceutical developers are advancing multi-action injectables such as combination therapies and triple hormone agonists through late-stage trials to maximize weight reduction and minimize muscle loss. Because that's the next phase. The next phase is smart weight loss, right? Minimizing muscle loss, right? And maximizing the weight loss. So people can say, well, oh my God, they stop talking about losing muscle, right? So the thing is, if you think about what I just said there, combination therapies, right? So a combination therapy are like the what is it? Like the semaglutide and the amylin, right? It's like the tirzepatide with amylin, like these trials that they got going on utilizing the new receptor. The amylin is one that they're trying to double and triple down on this, because it's like a new way. You know what I mean? And then you got to remember Retatrutide, which is coming out soon. That's what they meant, what they said when they said triple hormone agonist, because that'll be out at some point next year, most likely. So that is also, where it actually uses that glucagon. That's the difference between the tirzepatide and retatrutide, is the glucagon factor. So they're talking about like these next gen pipelines, because it's smart to actually be able to make medications that actually hold on to muscle. Okay, so Darren says, I have a super random question and you may have zero clue about the answer. I understand that higher dose terms is still in phase 2. Any hypothesis as to why it's not in phase 3 yet? Um, I would say probably because they decided to shift their focus to uh double down on or triple down on the release of retatrutide and the pill. Because I think they shifted their focus, because with them actually creating a portfolio, I don't really see the need of more of the same therapy, because the therapy that they have as is works really well, right? Um, and if you need beyond 20% on average, you probably could just move to retatrutide, because then at that point it's a step therapy, right? So I think they shifted Darium to focus on their actual full portfolio, right? I think that's what makes sense too, because with them bringing out retatrutide, someone that, let's just say, needs to lose 40% of their weight probably would go that route, right? Because we all know, right? And I'm not talking about diabetics. I'll go backwards to that in 1 second. On average, individuals lost 20% of their baseline body weight on the dual agonist. So that means that there are also individuals that lose 30% and 40% and 50%, right? And I think that I want to say the average probably is closer to 25. From everything I'm seeing now, I think the average weight loss is probably actually closer to 25. There was a lady that was on Oprah. I can't remember her name, but she got a book out. And she was saying how, she said that a long time ago, that the average really is more closer to 25, like not 20. On tirzepatide, I'm talking about tirzepatide, and it's probably in the higher teens on semaglutide. It's probably, closer to like 17, because most people say about 15, but it's probably closer to 15 to even maybe 20% on semaglutide, right? Or semaglutide. But tirzepatide is realistically 25%, because me personally, I lost 33% of my weight, and a lot of people have, well, not a lot, but some people have like 35% to lose, a lot of the population. And that's why when they hear 20%, they get worried, because they're like, well, I got to lose about 35, sometimes 40%, of my weight. Because you hear all the people that get to a certain point, they're like, yeah, I still got 30 pounds to lose. And it's because they lost 25% of their weight, but they really need to lose 35 or 40%. So they get worried, like, oh, well, we need something bigger than 20. So now with the retatrutide, right? If the average weight loss after 105 weeks, I'm talking about the extension where they actually stayed on it for, 105 weeks? I could, not 105, was it 85 weeks, I think? They stayed on for 85 weeks and lost an additional 20 pounds, right? That's what I mean, because the 30 pounds, the 30% is what was the average. So in my mind, if you just think about the same thing with tirzepatide, because that glucagon factor is actually raising that energy expenditure. So what that is simply, to put it in layman's term for those people that watch the video later, because I know most of us, people that watch us are pretty much OGs, so they pretty much they're able to kind of decipher some of these things. But it's good to have open conversation, because we have a lot of newbies, right? Because now on Facebook, I'm in a lot of new groups, a lot of Zep-bound support groups, stuff like that. And there are so many people every day that are brand new to the medication. But the good thing for them is there's so many users already in front of them that they get a lot of information. But the other side to it is that people get worried about the 20%, but not knowing that the 20% is really kind of almost 30. You know what I mean? That's what a lot of people end up, that's non-diabetic. I need to keep going back and saying that. And on the retatrutide, my point was about to be that those that are on retatrutide, when we see that 30%, is really probably closer to 35. You know what I mean? And 40 in some cases. So if you can lose 35%, like a lot of people, to even 40%, they would probably be a little bit more confident. Like, so for me, losing 33%, right? And I ultimately probably will end up like end all be all at about 35% down, because I'm at 33% right now. I could definitely see myself losing another 2% because of, like I said, the couple of pounds that I'm still going to lose, plus my impending laser lipo, that'll probably sit me right around 200 pounds, which would be about 35% loss for me overall. 36, like 35, 36%, right? I don't need to lose 40%, because 40% would be, more like the 180s, and so that's overshooting it for me. But you got some people that have lost 40 and 50% on it. Those are more rare. People that lose 40, 50% is more rare. But I see a lot of people that lost 30%, 25 and 30% is a lots of people lost that. So I think with the Retatrutide, the difference is with that means that on average, there's going to be lots of people losing 35 and 40%, right? So just put that in perspective, right? If you got a person that's pretty much, 300 pounds, right? Person that's 300 pounds that's trying to lose, weight to be able to lose 35 or even 40%, that means they're going to be out of obesity, number one, and probably at like 180 pounds, right? So put your down payment on. Nah, man, nah. You know what? I could though. Once I lose like this last 5 pounds or so, and I get that small surgery, man, I probably could be in Wonderland. I won't be one. I don't see 185, but I mean, I definitely probably could tap Wonderland, for sure. Because again, I'm 215 today. I was 214 last week, so I'm 215, and like I said, after that. After what I'm doing and that, I could definitely see myself being 200, between 195 and 200 pounds. So, which would be like just perfection, because that's all that's for me. I should say for me. I don't want to be, I don't want I don't want to be any smaller than that. I'm good. So this congestion is kicking up down here for whatever reason. I don't know what that is. But again, like I said, I think that's what people worry about. So, black market warnings. Federal regulators continue cracking down on illicit online vendors and unapproved compounded alternatives selling counterfeit or incorrectly dosed peptides. Courts are actively handling ongoing litigation between major brand manufacturers like Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk and compounding pharmacies over supply access. So, that's something that's always going to go on, because we're talking about drugs, and with drugs, there's always a war, there's always a battle, because there's dollars, there's going to be friction, right? So that's just, that is what it is. So what I try to do, personally is, I'm not on here promoting any specific, company, but I will say, the GLP-1 treatments overall have been a lifesaver for a lot, including myself, and I implore anybody who is going through any health struggles to actually jump on and do your thing. Make sure you just start taking that shot and doing lifestyle changes. And I think this is the thing that turns around your health for everybody. You know what I mean? And I will also say, be very careful with these compounders and these black market individuals. Now, and the reason why I say that is because all compounding isn't created equal. So you definitely want to make sure you get with a regulated company. 503A, 503B. That can actually source medication and actually give you medication in the proper way that is safe. You know what I mean? You don't want to just go with ABC company. You know what I mean? Because there's a reason why they're going. They're and this is not all the time, right? Because sometimes you have genuinely very good people that want to see people do well, right? So, and if you nurture a certain relationship, that can be true. But be very careful with overzealous people, because just like the you got companies that are stingy, that's not really doing much. You also got companies that's overzealous to use you, and they don't have the best. They don't have the best. They don't have the best intention. You know what I mean? So just be very careful about that. You know what I mean? Because they're not. And what I mean by that is their supply isn't quality. You know what I mean? They actually, don't have the quality that they should, and yet they utilize popular people to push it on people, and that's never a good thing, because the results, show that. So that's the only thing I would say about that. But overall, yeah, I'm not promoting, either one of the big guys. I'm just saying, I'm good with compound. I actually have no problem with compounding. I just say stay away from the black market because that's where it's not safe and you can actually harm yourself. And the whole point of this was actually to help yourself, not harm yourself. So why would you want to get something that could potentially harm you? You know what I mean? Nobody wants to do that. Who wants to do all of this and then stick themselves with something that's actually not pure? Because that's really what it is. It's really about the purity and the safety, of what it is that you're injecting. And you can't necessarily, know what that is if you're not, knowing where your source. If you actually just entered the conversation, please feel free to tap the like button and subscribe. So that way, the algorithm knows that it is, these are the videos that you like to see, and it will suggest them because I do see that they are pushing certain influencers' videos and not others. So, we have to do that on our own. So, let's just make sure we help each other when we come in and like the stream and hit that subscribe button and that bell so that way you're notified when it is that we do go live and do these videos. So, any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we can answer them. And some of y'all might have missed it, but I put, for those that are compounding, I did put the, I put the way to dose using syringes in my posts because I always tell people check out my posts because I post a lot of things. And again, I can't see what people can see because when you watch TV, like YouTube on TV, so you're not gonna see posts. You just see like the lives, the shorts, and the videos, but you don't see posts. But when we go into YouTube from the phone, we can see the posts. So I implore you to just go in and look at the post because I post a lot of information, right? I post lots of information, and I think it's really helpful if people see it. And so, make sure that you actually go through and then share it so other people can see it. That's the whole aim. Me personally, I aim to help people. You got different type of channels. You got certain type of channels that get on to debunk things, that get on to and it's all entertainment. I understand it, and to get your views up and monetize and things like that for some people. Again, I'm not here to monetize. If I do, so be it. But the more the better as far as education is concerned. And generally, that's all I do. Is I come on here, I try to educate, and I try to help people. You know what I mean? Because I do realize that my voice is powerful, and we are able to influence those. That's why I say we're influencers, not necessarily content creators. I don't feel like I'm a content creator because I don't get on and do all of the animation and the different putting up the different like videos and stuff like that. So videos that have like the pictures and everything, I usually do that in my posts. When I'm on here, I'm just simply educating. And I do that purposefully because I want it to be organic and I want people to actually listen to the conversation, right? Because a lot of us, we know that in our daily lives, we're always distracted, right? We're always on the phone or on this or on that, and we having the conversation and then half listening. So when we actually having the conversation and we taking the time to do this, right? We want to actually have undivided attention and be able to talk to one another in a way that's understandable, So that's why I kind of stay away from that. And I say influencer because there are people that listen, because I do get a lot of email, messages and stuff like that from people that tried things that I said. And even though I might not get the credit for it necessarily, I know for a fact, I'm personally talking to a multitude of ladies and gentlemen who take my advice and they do things, and later on they say, "Hey, thanks, man, that was good," So and I know they got it here. They heard it here first. So that's why I feel like I keep, because it's not easy. Some days I say to myself, well, do I want to go and spend an hour of my time, talking to, people on the, the YouTube that might not even give two craps. But no, I think, that would be inaccurate because even though, we don't necessarily, see like the crowds like other people, some people might with the lives and things. A lot of people see these videos later and they're able to draw information out of it that helps them. And again, like I said on Facebook, even so, I see a lot of newbies. There are people that's brand new that actually want the information. The problem is YouTube doesn't allow them to find us and have the patience to actually listen and learn, right? So that's why every video I do, I'm just trying to like generally teach people things because it does work. And the reason why I say it works is because more so than on here in person, I've gotten stories of people tell me face to face. And again, like I tell people, just 3 weeks ago, I had a little like kind of like a gathering where we actually meet new individuals for our networking business. And while we're networking, we kind of do like this a speed dating type thing, right? It's not speed dating, but that's how the conversations go. And what happened there is during those 2 minute conversations, I had 3 people simultaneously tell me how the last event when I did the men's health segment, and it wasn't just for men, but it was people in general, but I was specifically speaking to men. I did the health segment, and in that health segment, I actually was speaking to them about getting tested. Speaking to them about knowing their numbers and ensuring that they do different lifestyle things just to be healthy, whether they're on GLP-1 or not, right? And what happened is there was a guy. Well, there was a lady at that event that I just said that said, "Hey, you influenced my husband to actually start walking 20,000 steps a day." He started doing 20,000 steps. He's dropped 2 shirt sizes, two clothing sizes. And he didn't even notice, but his wife told him, he's like, "Hun, you dropped 2 clothing sizes since she said, and it's all was inspired by me calling all the men up there and letting them know that they were needed and that, we needed to make sure that we was around for our family. We need to do better, with our health." And the next guy at that, there was a lady talking about her husband. The next guy, he's my age. He said, "Hey, I'm 45, and I actually went and got my colonoscopy, after you mentioned it, at that conference, because that's what I was talking about, because I was just about to get mine." And I think it was, yeah, I got mine right. I want to say probably a week before I had we had that conference, networking event. So that was 2 people, 4 minutes, because it's 2 minute sections. Then the last person that I spoke to, it was a lady, and she said, "My husband went and got his blood work and got all his medications optimized because, of the conversation that I had with you, and I made appointments." And she's like, and then here's the icing on the cake. She said, "I actually went as well, and I found that I'm diabetic." She said, "I found out I'm diabetic." I said, "Wow." I said, "So you went and you found out you were diabetic after the conversation that I was having with you guys?" And she said, "Yeah, and I actually took my first shot of Manjaro." And that was 3 weeks ago. And what's crazy is my wife checked on her today, and she said she'd been taking her shot for several weeks. She hasn't weighed herself, but she said that she does know that she's come down. So obviously the next goal would be to get her to get a scale, but it's early on. She's taking about 3 pens. And she said that, or maybe it's been a month. It might have actually been a month now since that event. Or if it's not a month, I think it's coming up. Like maybe this coming week will probably be 1 month. So she'll probably be doing her first box of 2.5 because she got on Manjaro. So, and I said, this is going to be life changing because we have our events in April. So I said, now this is August. I said, now by the time you go through 8 months, you're going to be like another person. I was like, you just wait and see. Now, let's go back into the diabetic portion, right? Because this is namely for Darium, because me and Darium had this conversation prior to the Retatrutide trials being finished. So I want to go over that because I was saying something to Darium, and I figured I would be right about it, but now since the trial has concluded, we know the number. And I want to give that number to Darium because I had said that this was what I thought was going to happen. So give me a second because I'll pull that up right now. So that trial was, well, let me just read it. Retatrutide is an investigational once-weekly injectable drug that is currently in phase 3 of clinical trials, including specific studies for patients with type 2 diabetes. It belongs to a class of medication called triple hormone agonist, meaning it mimics 3 natural hormones, GLP-1, GIP, and glucagon to control blood sugar and reduce weight. So, you don't have to bore the folks with my inquisition. No, because I was saying this to you, and me and you were kind of going back and forth on the information, and I said that I think this is what's going to happen, and now that they did the trial, they have the answer. So in this trial, it says that, and this was just for diabetics. This is just for diabetics. Data from clinical trials show highly promising result for blood sugar management and weight loss. weight loss in patients with type 2 diabetes. And this was actually exciting to me because I'm like, look at this. People with diabetes actually have, hope here. And it says retatrutide has shown to significantly lower HbA1c, which is average blood sugar, and fasting glucose levels. These improvements appear broadly comparable to those of currently approved treatments like tirzepatide. So, patients with type 2 diabetes experience substantial weight loss in trials, averaging around 21% body weight. I'll read that one more time. Patients with type 2 diabetes experience substantial weight loss in trials, averaging around 21% body weight reduction. So diabetics actually have hope because they actually are losing the same average amount of weight with the retatrutide, in the clinical in the phase 3 clinical trials for retatrutide that us non-diabetics actually receive on tirzepatide. So that was phase 3, Darian. That was the one, phase 3 for diabetics. So that was phase 3. Let me go to. Yeah, that was Triumph phase. That was the phase 3. It was just for diabetics. Yeah, type 2 diabetes. Yes. Triumph 2. Yep. But that's so important because me and you literally went back and I said, Darren, now the number that I gave you, I remember, I said that now on average, they were, diabetics were seeing about 12%. They were seeing about 12% weight loss. I don't know your personal numbers, Darian, but I know that that's average. On average, those that were actually utilizing tirzepatide were seeing about 12 to 14% loss, at the highest dose, on average. You know what I mean? But I think it's about 12%, about 12%. So some 10, some maybe even 14. Now, with retatrutide, diabetics are in that trial. It was all diabetics. They were seeing up to 21%. So, I'm sorry, not up to, 21% on average. That's huge. That's huge because that means that with retatrutide, diabetics they have the potential to lose the same amount of weight that us folks that don't have diabetes do on tirzepatide. That is huge. That is huge because think about if an individual with diabetes could double the amount of weight that they've lost so far. If you are 29% on Mounjaro, yes. So just think about it. Are you diabetic, Traveling T? Well, you take a Mounjaro, so I would assume so. But what I'm saying is, a lot of diabetics don't have the same success on tirzepatide as those that, as you just saw in the trial, the Triumph trials for retatrutide do. On average. On average. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's a big deal because that means that you can lose the weight. Just like those individuals that are on tirzepatide can and you can't right now. And that's because that glucagon factor is do your thing, man. Yes, because what that's saying is that glucagon factor is doing that exercise. It's increasing that exercise that you might not be able to get, and I'm saying by way of energy expenditure. So I do have a question for those that are diabetic in the group. And if you are actually here watching the stream with us, please feel free to smash that thumb because there's 9 of you watching and we only got 5 likes. So please smash that like button. If you have not, please pause for a moment and smash that like button so that way the algorithm knows these are the videos that you want to see. And it also, please go ahead and hit that bell so it knows that so it notifies you when it is that we go live. And also subscribe to G's One of One because we're here every Sunday night, just trying to educate the obesity community. But my question for the diabetics on the stream, would you consider taking retatrutide once it's FDA approved in effort to lose 21% of your body weight if you are somebody that's stuck at 10 to 12% loss, to see, what that would do for you? Because let's just say you're at, 260 pounds, right? because you've lost, 10%. But if you were to take that, you lost 10%, which might be, in your case, 35, 40 pounds. You know what I mean? Hey, Kim J, which might be 35, 40 pounds, right? Would you, to double that, right? To double that, to get to 80 pounds, would you consider taking that Retatrutide and getting down to 220? You know what I mean? Would you consider that? Would you consider switching from Manjaro to Retatrutide, if available? Yes, so Traveling T, this wouldn't be applied to you because you got the same amount of weight loss that the people that don't have diabetes got with Manjaro, which is possible because you got it. But I'm asking those individuals who have not got as much weight loss, would they consider switching to Retatrutide because they're diabetic and they've only seen 10% weight loss? Now, let me be clear. With just 7, I want to say even 5, but between 5 and 7% of weight loss, that has a clinical effect. We know that. But just imagine, so and a lot of diabetics are sitting at 10%. If I was in that weight situation and I knew it would still help keep my A1C down, I would try it. Yeah, so that's what I mean, Grant. So what I'm saying is, based on Triumph trials, it's saying that it did, though. It's saying that it did. It's saying that it actually did that, and they were able to lose on average 21%, right? So that means that you could actually get to 30%. You could get it if you want it. You know what I mean? The help is there. You know what I mean? The help is there. We can't say diabetics won't lose like they wouldn't on tirzepatide because the proof is in the pudding, right? In the trials, they didn't get that, on tirzepatide or semaglutide. But here with Retatrutide, diabetics got 21%. So I'm just saying, I'm just asking, would you consider doing it if you have not gotten that? So I see a few people jumped in. If you have not already, please smash that thumb. Hit that like, subscribe, and hit that bell. So that way you get notified. Please and thank you. Let me go back for a second because we actually, what I actually started talking about, I'm going to go back into the trials real quick in 1 second. But the way I started this video, I started talking about a heightened awareness of, I want to say, give me 1 second. I started talking about a heightened awareness that you would have from, or that we have surrounding when we actually are overeating, snacking. It is right up for diabetics and weight management. Yes, it is. It is absolutely for that. But I'm gonna go back to that 1 second. I'm gonna go through the Triumph trials real quick. But I started the video saying that has your GLP-1 treatment gave you a heightened sense of potentially overeating while snacking, or potentially overeating or guilt, when you do so. Now, what I meant by that, just to clarify, because Grant had said, because of his lifestyle changes, that he doesn't worry about that, but that wasn't kind of what I was going after. I was just saying that just like we quieted the food noise with the drug, we've also now created a heightened sense because we spend so much less time eating. We don't eat a lot anymore. We don't spend a lot of time doing it. That when we are eating appropriately, technically, sometimes we feel guilty or we feel like we're overeating when we're actually not. That's kind of what I was getting at, because me and my wife were talking about it. She was saying how even when it was like 2 weeks that she wasn't on a shot, and she said she was okay because she was able to control herself because she actually felt guilty when she was eating more than she should, even though, again, she was kind of eating just normal, you know what I mean? Or nothing like before. But because we eat so much less now, you kind of just got that sense where, you don't overeat anyway. Even though, like I said, this is not cues of actually if you come off the medication, you'll be, not gaining weight, you'll all be all good. No, because we all know that most of the people that say they've been all good by coming off the medication most of them haven't been off medication long enough to even say so, because we talk about a month or two. How about a year or two? You know what I'm saying? Because that's when you gotta have patience with either way, right? Well, if you go left or right, you still gotta have patience. And the thing is, because you've been off for a couple months and you gained, 6 pounds, that's not really what I'm talking about, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that go off for, a year. You know what I mean? Like those are the people where I think that you see true rebound. You know what I mean? Because the thing that you can't replace, right? Now, you might say, oh, well, I don't have the fullness that I felt, prior, right? Before. But what I do have is I don't have the fullness that I have, but what I do have is willpower. You go back to that, and I'm like, no, that's not will. Okay, let's say you do. Let's say you do the old school willpower thing. What you don't have is the effects that the medicine have on the mitochondria, right? Because all these little mitochondria receptors that's all over the body that where we see in those reduced. There are a lot of different Reddit trials happening right now at Travel T. One is for obesity, osteoporosis. Yep. But yeah, so that's the thing. Like you think that basically because you have a little more control, that you can just you can determine how it is that you would be when you come off, but not so fast, because again, you can't do what the drug does to the mitochondria on those receptors, which actually are on the heart, the kidneys, the liver, and that's what got those numbers looking good, those numbers looking optimal, because it's optimizing the function of those things, right? And if I want to talk about myself, I'll say my actual I'll say my cholesterol panel, right? Is probably at I want to say 167 or something like that, because my good cholesterol is near 60. My bad cholesterol is probably right around 90. And then the other one that makes up the whole thing is probably close to that. So I'm well under 200, but I know that the medication is now. I think I might have been slightly over 200 prior to the medication, but I think the biggest factor that turned around was my good cholesterol, right? I humbly say I believe I've seen more weight loss on MJ than what the studies show for type 2. But depending on how my journey continues, I may consider Reddit. We shall see. If the benefits outweigh the drawbacks. Yeah, Kim. So when I actually start talking about that, my question was, for all the diabetics that's in the group, my question was, if you have not seen the weight loss, if you've seen the weight loss, then there's nothing for you to do. If you've seen a drop in the A1C and the weight loss, meaning you've gotten over 20%, then you're fine. You're fine. I'm talking about people who actually, it controls the diabetes. It does the other things. We know that for a fact, all of them, pretty much. But the weight loss is the problem, right? Which would actually help to attribute even better health for other numbers for other individuals that have not seen that kind of loss. Because a lot of diabetics, I think the average is 12%. So you got people that's losing 6, 7, 8%, which is clinically significant, right? If you're losing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% of your weight, that is still clinically significant. Because way back in the day, if you lose 10% of your weight, you was doing something. You know what I mean? 20 years ago, we have all this. You lost 10%. It's like, oh, you lost a good weight. Good deal of weight. Wow. But, and again, that's 20 pounds, right? You lost 20 pounds. If you're 200, you lost 20 pounds, 330 pounds. That you was doing something. Because that's the kind of weight we used to lose back in the day. Now we're losing 70 pounds or 100 pounds. You know what I mean? Women losing 70, men losing 100, And some women losing 120, 30, 40, 50, depending on how big you are. But I'm saying based on average sizes, a 200-pound woman or a 300-pound man. That's what I'm doing. I'm just doing average. I'm not doing, the super morbid obese where, 400-pound woman, 500-pound man. No, I'm just saying a 200-pound lady and a 300-pound man, right? And if you lost 10%, you're talking about 20 pounds for her, 30 pounds for him. That's probably pretty much kind of what you got to. Back in the day, that's all that before we started all of the medical treatment and all that, or we used the old school treatments, the fin added a little more kicker, that dangerous stuff back then. And I'm glad I never did that. I thought about it, because I was out of desperation, but I never did it. But that fin, kind of added another little notch to it. You know what I mean? Like it doubled it. Women would lose 40 and men would lose 60. You know what I'm saying? But initially, without anything, right? Most of us could probably get to that 10% if we worked our tails off, and it did have clinical significance, right? But now we're talking about being able to lose 30%, right? 30%. You talking about 3 times that amount, right? Or even 40%, in some cases. So if you're able to do that, you got to think about it. If you're able to do that, now you're talking about, adding years to your life, because that's surgical. You know what I'm saying? When you lose 30 to 35%, that's surgical. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. No way around it. 30 to 35% is surgical, right? Because I think the averages for surgery is probably like 23 to like 35%, right? Or 40%. So we talking about getting that out of Retatrutide, right? 30%. All right. So no, what I was saying is with the about the Triumph trials, because somebody did ask. There's several trials, like Darium said. So let's go through them real quick before we get off tonight. Let's go through them. So Retatrutide is an investigational once weekly triple hormone receptor agonist, GIP, GLP, and glucagon, being evaluated by Eli Lilly in a large phase 3 clinical trial program called Triumph. It's called Triumph. These global studies are testing its safety and efficacy for chronic weight management, type 2 diabetes, knee osteoarthritis, obstructive sleep apnea, and cardiovascular health, right? Key phase 3 Triumph trials. Triumph 1 and Triumph 2 are core weight management studies evaluating adults with obesity or overweight with nested evaluations for obstructive sleep apnea and osteoarthritis, okay? So Triumph 1 and Triumph 2 are just those individuals with obesity or overweight, obstructive sleep apnea, and osteoarthritis. Triumph 3 focuses on weight management in a population with established cardiovascular disease. Established cardiovascular disease. And that one also mentioned was the aforementioned one with those individuals suffering from diabetes, like we talked about. Please smash that like if you're in the chat. Take one moment and just hit that like button if you're in the chat. I got 9 watching and 7 likes. So if you didn't hit that like button, hit that like button, and then hit the subscribe and the notification bell, so you actually subscribe to G's One of One, and you'll get notified that we teach the algorithm that these are the videos you like, and you'll get notified, when it is that we're actually going live, which is every Sunday night. Please and thank you. Triumph 4, right? This evaluates efficacy, weight reduction, and physical function, pain relief in participants with knee osteoarthritis and obesity. Triumph 5 compares Retatrutide directly against tirzepatide in adults with obesity. This is one that I actually need to dive more into, Triumph 5, because I have not seen much about that. But this is comparing Retatrutide directly to tirzepatide in adults with obesity. Very interesting. Triumph 8 evaluates body weight reduction and safety compared to a placebo in adults with obesity or overweight without diabetes. This is without diabetes. So if we go backwards, right? And then Triumph outcomes. That's the last one. That is the study that studies long-term cardiovascular and kidney outcomes. Long-term cardiovascular and kidney outcomes. And I'll tell you, even with tirzepatide, like I was talking about, my EGFR rate, right? It used to be 71. Now using tirzepatide, it's like 80. I think it's about 80. So it went up. So my filtration of my kidney got better. So that matters. So transcend 2D3. That's the one I wanted to go back to, because that's the one that this compares Retatrutide with a placebo and participants managing type 2 diabetes alongside moderate or severe renal impairment, right? So just to kind of triple down on the conversation earlier, what I was saying was those with diabetes have lost 21% of their body weight on average with Retatrutide in transcend T2D3, right? So that is the one where, so it's transcend. That is the trial that compared the one that I was talking about with the diabetes. Just to be very clear. So trial findings and status. Phase 3 data reports significant body weight reduction, approaching an average of 28 to 29% loss at higher target doses over extended periods, alongside improvements in blood sugar and secondary health markers like blood pressure. So it has improvements. So those that were worried that the glucagon factor would send that increased energy expenditure would send your blood sugar up, it did not. It did not. It did not. It did not. Because of the synergy, right? So these things are very important. But feel free to read up on these things. Triumph, if you are interested in the Retatrutide. And like I said, I just wanted to have like something informal tonight. If you guys actually have any questions, because we got 10 people watching right now, feel free to drop some questions in the chat before we get off tonight, and I'll actually answer anything you might be curious about. I did put up in my post. I always tell people go check my post out. Transcend, yes, that's what. Yeah, transcend. Type T2D. Transcend. That is the actual trial. It's the transcend type 2 diabetes 3, because this is comparing retatrutide with placebo and participants managing type 2 diabetes along moderate or severe renal impairment, because a lot of us actually have the chronic kidney disease, right? And like, it sounds like such a horrid thing that a lot of us, I'm gonna tell you, a majority of us have it and don't even think we got it, right? Because forever, now the doctor isn't talking to you unless you drop below a 60, right? So as long as you at a 60 or above, it's kind of like in the okay range, right? I was always in the 70s, so I never had the conversation. Now I'm at 80, so I'm good. When you're at a 90, you're good. Like, that's solid, good kidney. You know what I mean? Obviously, you want to be 100% if you're like, very young or brand new, but that's not reality for most middle-aged people, people that's like above 40 and got high blood pressure and all the other things. If you at an 80, that's really good. That's why I'm happy about that, because it's not, I'm not at a 90, but at an 80 with hypertension like I've had all this time, that's like really good, So what I'm saying is this trial, a Transcend type 2 diabetes 3, which is Transcend T2D3, compares retatrutide with placebo participants managing type 2 diabetes alongside moderate or severe renal impairment. Now, the reason why that's important is because you talk about those that have diabetes and kidney disease. Diabetes and kidney disease, and they're losing 21% of their body weight on average. Just sit with that. Diabetics with kidney disease are actually losing 21% of their body weight. Come on. I mean, that's amazing. Like, so what I'm saying is the help is on the way. If you couldn't lose weight with the Manjaro, you're definitely gonna do it with the or definitely could do it with based on the trial. Thousands of people in this trial. So there's that. But like I said, if you feel free for the next couple of minutes to before I shut us down tonight, go ahead and ask any questions if you like in the chat before we close out tonight. Just put those cues up so that way we know where it is that which ones are questions before we hang up. So if there's any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Any questions at all? I did, like I said, I cut myself off. Basically, I put a lot of things on my post versus the actual, actual post of educational stuff. Like I put up the dosing, how to use the syringe, how to dose appropriately, because a lot of people aren't aware of that, or don't know. So I actually put that out there so that way people can understand. So if you go look at my post, I usually put a ton of educational stuff throughout the week in there. To stay active, when I don't have an opportunity to do shorts and things of that nature, I go and put it in the post. So if you get time, feel free to go and check my post out. So, all right. So if there are absolutely no questions, we will bid you guys adieu for tonight. So I do, appreciate you guys for hanging out with Jesus 101. Spread the word. Let people know that I'm here. If any guys in your life that actually, or people that that want to actually see a guy talking about it, because I know we are, we have a lot of women in the space, but there are also men. So feel free to actually, send them my way. And like I said, the channel is growing. I do appreciate people that are subscribing, because I am a part of several groups on now Facebook, Zepbound support groups all throughout Facebook. I actually put myself out there and let people know I got a page, because YouTube is not necessarily doing us any favors and pushing our pages. They push certain pages, but this is why some people got 10,000 followers and some people got 500, right? Because you got pages they're pushing and pages they aren't, for whatever reason. And we actually get to see those pages, and it's not a lot of differences. It's just that these are the pages that they decide to push. It's like rolling the dice, right? So it is what it is. But we have good information here, and we want people to actually get to receive it. So, just spread the word and share that we're available, okay? In your experience, have you noticed cost of diabetic supplies not being covered much by insurance? That's a good one, but at the same time, it's such a loaded question, because insurance is so all over the place. It depends on who you have. I mean, insurance is so weird now. There's people that work for like urgent cares that might have better insurance than people at companies you wouldn't dream. You know what I mean? So it's very highly. I don't think the diabetes, the supplies changed a lot as far as that's concerned. But that's something I would have to actually like really pay attention to. I haven't really paid attention to the supplies, but I do know that there is a disparity based on the company. To get new lasting strips, and it's cheaper to get over the counter. Yeah, so then that's probably a thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, since they know that they're cheaper over the counter, that's probably why they want to get out the business, because it's not profitable. So if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense to them. Grant, that's the whole thing. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And I think you kind of answered the question. Like, if they know people could just simply get this stuff over the counter, they're simplifying their portfolio, or I should say, what it is that they cover. So they just kind of try to move away from it, and go elsewhere with what they feel like is profitable. They deem profitable. So they'll let you get that over the counter, while they, decide to, go ahead and focus on other medication. So, actual medication. So, any other questions before I hang up? If not, all right, guys. So it's been fun. Like I always like to say, obesity warriors stand up. We in this together. Later. Good night, y'all. Thank y'all for stopping through. Appreciate you. Catch Darren and RMZ on Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. And I'll be back next Sunday. I'll pop a few things throughout the week in there. Maybe I'll get a short in. All right. Later.